For some reason, it seems to be controversial, at least with some people, and I don't know why. Running with a buddy. But I can tell you, I stopped running with a buddy, and there were a lot of things that happened. I ran with people for a considerable number of years, 8 to 10 years, and then I've had the last basically 10 years of just hard training on my own. So today, I want to tell you about the things that happened when I stopped running with a buddy. Welcome to the show I call Runners High. I'm Jesse Funk. If you like running, you like to know about running, talk about running, learn about running, then you should subscribe. There's a button somewhere over here. I don't know. It's in virtual land. You see it. It's red. It's over there. Hit subscribe. Stick around. New episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. So, running with a buddy is, for, like I mentioned, some reason controversial. I don't know. Some people don't like it. Some people do like it. But I stopped doing it about a decade ago, and the reason is largely pragmatic. I spent 9 years running with teams in school from the time I was 8th grade to the end of college. I ran at what is now a Division II school, so I had people around, but not really top flight. And so then I went on and I wanted to compete post-collegiately. I didn't want to give up the things that I really enjoyed, which was competing, and I went on to try to become a professional triathlete. So if you haven't been on the channel before, you probably never heard me mention that. I got to hang out with cool people as a part of this thing that USA Triathlon does called the Collegiate Recruitment Program. It's part of their pipeline to try to develop new pros and eventually win Olympic gold. And it was, at the time, run by former world number one, Barb Lindquist. You'll hear me mention Barb a lot of times on the channel, and it is not to brag, because I always like to clarify that I was more a hanger-on with the group rather than like a golden ticket invitation handed out. I kind of figured out how to weasel my way in at the time. But I talk about Barb because she's such a wonderful person. She offers a lot of advice, and I like to keep her name out there as an appreciation, my appreciation for her and the things that she did for me. So when I was talking to Barb about making this adjustment, when I stopped running with other people, she said this is an adjustment that everybody goes through. And there is this kind of depression that everybody kind of goes through. And it's not always, when you want to say like a classical, clinical type depression. It's not that. It is a new mode and method of operation. I did all my workouts. I didn't miss workouts because I didn't have buddies anymore, but there's some kind of energy you miss when you don't have friends around anymore. And Barb mentioned this happens with everybody. It wasn't unique to me. It happened to her when she finished swimming at Stanford. It happened to pretty much everybody else in the group who were all pursuing professional careers in triathlon or subsequent other careers and triathlon, and we just didn't have the time to run with other people. So maybe this is you, and you haven't ran with people because we've been in a pandemic for the last couple of years, and now as we're moving towards the endemic stage, you're thinking about, maybe I should run with a buddy again. There are obviously pros and cons. One of the cons being that, not being able to have your own mode and method of operation, but there are a lot of pros as well. And one of those pros, as I kind of mentioned, is that energy, right? There's something about having somebody around that, just gives you a little more pep in your step. At least it does to me. Maybe not for everybody. And I can say this for sure because I had a friend come in town recently. One of the friends I met doing triathlon, so we live in different cities. It's not like we get to train all the time. I'll see him, it used to be, we'd see each other multiple times a year as we were racing and competing. And then pandemic, I haven't seen him in a couple of years. He came in town. We went out for a run so I could do his sweat test. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we can talk about the sweat test later, or you go to soulfree.com/shop. So we went out for a run, about an hour, some hard sections in there. Kind of touring around so he can see houses because he loves houses. And there's something lighter about the run. There's a lot of levity to the run. because I had somebody there with me. It wasn't just me out on another training run focusing on myself. There was an ebb and flow. And that's a very big positive. It's something that I missed because I stopped running with buddies over time, largely out of necessity. So if you feel like that, if you feel like, man, I need something, I feel heavy, and maybe it's not physically heavy, because sometimes you feel that when you're fatigued, but you have this mental weight. If you have a friend that you can run with and you haven't run with in a while, give them a call. Just make it an easy run. Even if they haven't been running, like my buddy, do something that's easy for them. Help them be incorporated into your workout schedule. There's something nice about it. But there is a drawback that I just kind of touched on a little bit. And that drawback is flexibility of scheduling, right? So this is something that stopped happening, when I stopped running with a buddy, this is something that happened. And that was, my schedule was free to be whatever I wanted it to be. I didn't have to wait for other people to come and be done with work to go work out. I've been invited over the years to work out with some of the other people in town, as I kind of competed when I was competing triathlons, typically finishing in the top 5 at most of the local races. And those are the same guys I see all the time in all the races here in town. You know, I had a couple of invitations to work out with them, but they maintain more traditional jobs, whereas I run Solpre, I'm an entrepreneur, so I have a much more flexible and hectic day often. And I like to get my workouts done in the morning. So usually I work a little bit. I go work out at 9 o'clock-ish, depending on the day. And then I'm done before lunch. Whereas many of them, especially when we were doing 2-a-days, they'd get up, they'd do their first workout at 4 a.m., and they'd do their second workout at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. As much as I love running with a buddy, it just was not conducive to my family life and my schedule. So it's a very big positive that you get when you're not running with other people, and that's the entire flexibility of your own schedule. Maybe you maintain a regular work schedule like those friends I have here in town, and you still want to go work out in the middle of the day over your lunch break. Well, that's up to you. You don't necessarily have to have somebody come meet you to do a run or whatever workout it is that you want to do over your matching lunch breaks now, and now they're stuck in traffic, and it becomes more of a logistical nightmare. So that was one positive thing that happened when I stopped running with a buddy. Another positive thing was that my self-pacing got better. Now, I'm actually known for pacing as far as like my collegiate team, always very, very good at that. But my ability to self-pace dialed in just a little bit more when I was not focused on what other people were doing. I was only focused on my own pace. The downside of that being that it's really preferable to get to that place where you're focusing solely on what you're doing, or me in this case, but also with other people around. Because what happens at a race? You go to a race and sometimes people go out too fast and you need to go out slower, or some people tend to go out too slow and you need to go out faster. And sometimes it can be distracting. You get these like nervous energy. Oh, am I going out too fast? Oh, am I not going fast enough? When if you're focused on that internal sense of pacing, then it's not a problem. If you spend all your time by yourself, it's hard to remember what that's like, what that feeling is like to have other people around and let the kind of presence of them go while you focus inward. So although my internal pacing increased and I dialed in even better than I had before, I think I lost some of the sense of being able to pace with other people doing their own thing and having the ability to let somebody go and then reel them back in over time. Some of those skills, because I've practiced them over so many years now, 20 plus years of racing, they aren't completely lost, but they're not quite as sharp as they used to be. It's just like the first time you get back on a bicycle. Maybe your handling isn't quite as good as it was. You can still ride a bicycle, but but you're not quite as sharp as you used to be. And that's a skill just like anything else. So that's kind of the sum of what happened when I stopped running with a buddy nearly 10 years ago now. I went through a bit of a funk, no pun intended, where I got out of it and I figured out my own groove and my own motivation, and I figured out my bag of whys, something I talk about in another video, I'm sure somewhere on this channel, the needs for your motivation. But I also missed the energy of having my friends around. So if you find yourself in a place where you need a little bit of social connection, especially right now as we're moving towards that kind of endemic stage, I can't tell you what you believe to be a good line of demarcation for safety as far as COVID's concerned, because I'm not a virologist. But if you make that determination for yourself, then you should find somebody to go hang out with, to get that run in. So that's good. You're getting the physical exercise in and getting a little bit of social aspect in. There's some energy there. We're social creatures. So doing things by yourself all the time, if you don't get that social aspect somewhere else, it can be a great place to incorporate it in a run. But it doesn't have to be all the time, because as I mentioned, flexibility is nice, and doing things when you want to do them is nice too. It's the nice part about being an adult. You kind of decide your own schedule for the greater part of your life. So, do you have any questions for me about running, about training, about mentality, anything? Leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to do a video for you in the future. I'll see you next time on the next episode of Runner's High.